Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am going to be showing you how I use my bullet journal to budget and plan my spending for the month. Don't forget to subscribe for more home management, organising and planning videos. In today's video I am going to be showing you how I use my bullet journal to track my spending and help me to budget. I've covered some of the sections that have confidential information, but it's not going to stop me from showing you how this spread works and talk you through it all. Okay, so this first page is for my spending, and I did this last month and it worked really well. I found it really useful and it helped me to see where my money was going. So I've just titled it Spending. I've used one of my new Tombow markers to do a line through it. If you're interested, the colour I used was the pink 723. I then made up this grid with 6 columns. It has a space for date, description, amount, and then repeated again. And then I just popped down the date, what I'd spent it on and how much it was. And then at the end of the month, I can go back and look over at what I've been spending my money on. So I can see how much I've spent on food, like groceries, because sometimes we will do one big shop at, say, Aldi or Tesco's, but then we pick up little bits and pieces from like our local co-op through the week. So it's really helpful to look back and see how much we're actually spending on food throughout the month and other things. So things like Boots and Superdrug, I spent money on makeup and toiletries, and I can look back and see how much I've spent, and it means I can budget more realistically for these things like beauty and toiletries and things if I know how much I'm actually spending in reality. Because it's one thing to budget how much I would like to be spending, but if that is completely unrealistic and I'm overspending or underspending, then it's not going to work. So it's really useful to be able to look back over a few months and see what I'm spending and make up a realistic budget. One thing we noticed last month was we were spending way more than we wanted to be on fuel and way more than we thought we were spending. So we have to look at that and see how much petrol we're using, are we making any unnecessary trips, and see if we can adjust that accordingly. So that brings me on to the next page, which is my April budget. Again, I just titled this with April budget and done a line through it using one of my Tombow markers. And if you're interested, it is the blue number 451. And it's a really pretty aqua kind of colour. So I thought about just doing one generic budget that I would stick to all year, and then I decided that it's going to be a bit changeable depending on how much I'm spending on my spending log. It might change from month to month, so I decided just to do one for April, and that's what I've done. So this is split into 3 columns, one for income and expenses, one for an estimated amount that we're spending, and one for our actual amount. So I looked back over last month and I came up with the estimates of what I thought we would be spending this month, and then at the end of April I will put down what I have actually spent. So I've covered this up, but underneath we have mine and Andrew's income. Now this could be like your wage, if you get any benefits, if you have any other income that comes in, you can put it all here and then put a total. So you might have an estimate, especially if you're like self-employed, you might have an estimate of how much you think you're going to make, but then at the end of the month you can see what you've actually made. Then down here we have our expenses, and I've put down all our direct debits that come out every month that don't tend to change too much. I've put them down here, and then I've done an estimate which I've covered up, but underneath here there is an estimate of how much I think we should be spending on these items. So most of these direct debits are the same from month to month, they don't change, but there are some that occasionally change. Things like our electric or our phone bill might change from month to month. So I've put down an estimate based on the month before or previous months of what I think it should be, and then at the end of the month I'll put in what it actually was. So we can have an overall look at the end of the month and see where all our money went, and if there's anywhere we need to be looking at maybe finding cheaper alternatives. So towards the end of my expenses list are a few variables, things like our birthday and Christmas fund. I like to put away a little bit of money for people's birthdays and Christmas and things, but obviously if we're having a bit of a tighter month I might just like miss that for a month, or if we were to get any extra money for whatever reason I might put a little bit more into that. So I have an amount that I have in mind that is my estimate, and then I will put down what my actual amount is at the end of the month. Again, petrol and food might change from month to month. I have a budget, so the amount that I plan to spend on food I'll put in the estimate, but if I overspend or underspend for whatever reason, then I will note that in the actual. So at the end of the month, obviously you're hoping that your income is larger than your expenses. Otherwise, if your expenses are more than your income, then you're going to end up in debt, and that's when you have to start to look at cutting back on things and changing your spending. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you will know that I am really into meal planning. So one of the things I like to do is to write out my shopping list before I go shopping to make sure that I don't overspend. This is something that I try and do every shopping trip. So I've got here Aldi shopping list. I've written it in pencil in case there's anything that I want to change before I go, so you might not be able to see it very clearly. But this is my shopping list, and I'll take the book with me. Another thing that you can do if you're on a really tight budget, it can be really useful, is to make a list of the items that you buy frequently, and then when you go shopping, take a note next to it of how much the item costs, so that next week when you're making up your shopping list, you have a better idea of the budget. For places like Tesco's, it's easy enough to look online with their online shopping facility and see how much items are and budget that way. But for places like Aldi where you can't buy online, it can be really useful to take a note in store or even from your receipt when you get home, so that you can budget more accurately. So I have my shopping list and also my meal plans, which you'll have seen in other videos. I will try and link one above with my grocery haul and meal plan so you can get an idea of how I meal plan. But that is what I do to try and keep on track of our food spending. Okay, so these next two pages, we have my bill tracker and also my debt tracker page. So this page for the bill tracker, I have used a purpley lilac kind of colour to highlight, and it is the Tombow Jewel Brush number 553 in case you're interested. And I've just written bill tracker at the top and done a line through it using that Tombow pen. I've done a line down the side here with Tombow, which I'll explain in a minute. Then what I've done is listed all the items that are going to be coming out throughout the month. So all my bills are coming out for the month. I've listed down here. Obviously I've covered some up for confidentiality. Then what I've done is in this highlighted column down here, I've written round about when the bills are coming off. So these bills at the top come off around the 1st, these ones around the 4th, the 6th and the 16th. And I've just penciled that in because that's not set in stone. Depending on if the 1st falls on a weekend or on a holiday, it might not come out then. But it just gives me an idea of around when in the month those bills should be coming off. So say it's the 9th of the month, I can look and see, okay, these bills should have come off by now and these ones still have to come off. So it gives me a clearer idea of where I am in the month with regards to my bank balance. So if it looks like I don't have very much in the account, it could be because a lot of these bills have come off. Or maybe it looks like I've got a lot in the account and that's because there's still quite a lot to come off. So it gives me more of a clear idea of where we are financially. So along the top here, I've just listed all the months from this month until January because I've just set up this plan. So I've started from this month. And what I've done is use my Tombow pen to highlight every second column, and it's just helpful when you're ticking off boxes. It means that you don't get mixed up and sway into the wrong column, which is really easy to do when it's just a blank grid. So I've highlighted every second column to make it a bit clearer. And then what I'll do is each month I will tick off the bill as it comes out, and it just helps keep track of the bills, like I said, so that I can see where in the month we are, how many of the bills we've paid, how many we haven't, and if there was any banking errors or for any reason there wasn't enough money in the account and a bill hadn't come out, it means that I can notice quicker that the bill hasn't been paid, and so I'm not 3 months down the line and realise I haven't been paying that bill for a few months and I then have to pay a massive bill. It keeps me on track with everything that has been paid and what hasn't. Also, if for any reason a bill was to come out twice, then I will know because I've already ticked it off. If it comes out again and I notice it in the bank account, I can look and think, that's already been paid, that shouldn't have come out twice, and I can query it. So the next page is my debt tracker page. I've used 2 of my grey Tombows. The first one, which is very pale, you might not even be able to see it, is along the top here, and that one is the Tombow N95. It's a really light grey and I really like it, but like I say, it's very subtle. And then I've used another grey here for my drop shadow, and that is the Tombow N60. I've just written debt tracker. I've done a line with the light grey along the top, and then I've broken it up into 4 boxes. If you have more separate debts than this, you would do like a double spread. You might not even need as many of these. Hopefully in an ideal situation you wouldn't have any, but I've broken ours into 4 boxes and done a grey drop shadow, and I've just written debt amount, company, reason and monthly payment. So whatever your total debt amount is, what company that the debt is from, so that when it comes out your bank account or you're going to pay it, you know who you're paying, and the reason. So if you borrowed it for something in particular, maybe you have a big life event coming up, then you can pop that there, and it means that when you look back, you're like, why did I take out that money? And you can see, okay, this is why we took that out. And then what the monthly payment is, so that you know how much you're paying each month for each debt. So I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions, please pop them below in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!